It's now my great pleasure to present to you the students chosen by their classmates to be the class speakers. For the day division, it's my pleasure to introduce David Layne.
Thank you, Dean Epps. My classmates probably think that I'm up here to tell a few jokes, keep it as light as possible, and avoid some of the soapbox jargon that's so typical of commencement day speeches. But as I prepared these remarks, I found that I just can't. I can't because I do have a heart, and my friends, today I do feel a little bit sad. And you might be asking yourselves, how could anyone in this auditorium feel sad? We sit here today again in Pete Leocoris' auditorium, ready to accept yet another prestigious, albeit expensive, piece of paper, letting us know that today we are Juris Doctors, and with any luck, attorneys by fall. How could any of us feel sad knowing that the days of endless case briefs are over and the Socratic method no longer fills us with fear, but rather with, I guess, a lot of scar tissue and probably a little bit of resentment. But that's okay. Indeed, no more classrooms, no more books, no more teachers' dirty looks. But also no more finals, no more site checks, no more moot courts or trial teams. No more stress about the letters of the alphabet, A through F. Yet despite this freedom from the rigors of law school, I am a little sad, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this crowd feeling that emotion. In August of 2011, Dean Epps, Dean Eston, and Judge McKee welcomed us to Temple Law School. And Dean Eston on that day called us a well-selected group from a pool of over 4,200 applicants. Our class represents still 129 colleges and universities, 31 states and foreign countries. We are still engineers, dancers, teachers, tax examiners, community volunteers, soldiers and Coast Guard officers, accomplished athletes, poets, and musicians. However, what was a group of individuals on August 17, 2011, has become unified by a common bond. A law school experience that's about far more than just doctrine and rules. I don't think Jim Beasley cared whether students could tell a future client how chicken was explicitly defined in a contract, nor was he concerned necessarily with whether we knew who had property rights to a wounded fox running through the woods in 1805. And for those of you that don't know, those are things that you actually study as a first-year law student. I think Mr. Beasley envisioned a distinctly practical approach to legal education, and we're united by this thanks to faculty members who have taught us not just what it takes to be great students, but how to truly respect opinions, how to listen, and how to be confident rendering ideas. I'll try to give some examples of how this mental evolution takes place. Professor Dave Hoffman was Section 3's first exposure to the pressures of the law school classroom, and he told us on day one of contracts class that the most important attribute we could take from the first year of law school was situation sense, an unconscious way of seeing the world that comes best from total immersion in a field of study like the law. Of course, this was just before we launched into a truly skillful 30-minute back and forth with a student about a first-year case that we'd read. And that's something that we've all experienced here at one point or another, and which usually resulted in a lot of sweat and probably a few tears here or there, but I can assure you all we are infinitely better for those experiences. But perhaps this situation sense is similar to something Eddie Olbaum meant when he taught us a class, not just in evidence, but what he called evidence advocacy. The ultimate lesson from that course being that we don't just do things as lawyers because the rules allow us to. We do them because the goals of persuasion and necessity require. These are the nuances of practice that make our Temple education special, and thus the ultimate unifier of almost 250 students with such extraordinarily diverse backgrounds. It was rarely easy, but I'm confident that we have learned this situation sense, and in doing so we've shown wisdom, creativity, humor, sometimes cutthroat competition, and always brilliant advocacy. Indeed, often our greatest teachers over the last 3 years have been one another. And of course, this class has given to Temple University as much as Temple has given us. Beyond our record-setting class gift, we've brought home championships in trial competitions, awards in appellate advocacy and legal writing. We brought prestige through academia through work on our law review and our journals. In this class are Temple's first law and public policy scholars, bringing the Temple name to our nation's capital and beyond. So as I share these thoughts, I realize that perhaps those of us that are sad might be mistaking that feeling for something more like nostalgia. And maybe even that's the wrong emotion to have on a day like this, because as much as we can think of today as an end, it really isn't. Our education, with its foundation laid here in North Philadelphia, will continue as we enter practice and as we lean on each other in years to come. And I'm reminded today as well, and excuse me guys if this is a little bit sappy, but I'm reminded of the great Fred Shiro, legendary hockey coach of the Philadelphia Flyers in the 70s, who wrote on the chalkboard before the Flyers took the ice to clinch what is sport's greatest trophy. There's no argument there. He wrote on that chalkboard, "Win today and you will walk together forever." I think in these 3 years, each of us has indeed won something. And after we walk across this stage and claim what are our proverbial trophies, I hope that we'll continue, bonded by this education, to walk together. Thank you.